What happens when people have cash flow problems?
They try to fix them.
Yeah, but what happens to, how do they try to fix them?
By getting more money sometimes.
Which means what?
Working more.
Yeah, but
Which means more cash flow.
no, if they get more money, well, they're trying to fix the cash flow. When they have cash flow problems and they're trying to fix it and they get more money, what
have more
happens?
cash flow
They
problems.
end up having debt. Okay, most of the time, because cash flow is you fix it with money, but with setting up a new system with budgeting with all these things. But money is a mindset. Money is who you become. So if you do not work on that person that got into debt or had cash flow problems, you will end up in the cash flow problems again. Okay, so people get into debt. Now, obviously, there are circumstances where they have cash flow problems because they're growing a business or they're doing something different, right? And it all depends on what their mindset and how they're doing it. But in the majority of times, people who have cash flow problems end up getting credit cards and all these other debts. Why do people have cash flow problems? Do you guys have some ways that they have cash flow problems?
They're an overspender.
Yeah, they overspend. They spend more than they make.
This could kind of be a problem. Like they're scared to spend money.
I think that would not necessarily go. If they're afraid of spending money, I don't think it would necessarily go with cash flow, but they would not live joyfully. They would, because they would probably save everything that they had, right? But they could still not want to buy something that they really, really want. They would bring them really like a lot of joy because they feel like they have to save all of it. So they would probably have no cash flow, like no money coming in, money coming out. They would just all stay in.
I'll just be income at that point.
Yeah, they don't track their money. One of the biggest things is they just don't pay attention to the numbers. If you ask people around, like just ask people in general, like, hey, do you keep a budget or do you know how much you spent on food or subscriptions? Subscriptions are a big hit because people are like, oh, it's such a low quantity of money a month, but then they add up, and before you know it, it's like there's $20 of something that like they'll have. And I'm not judging, but they'll have Hulu, they'll have Netflix, they'll have Disney Plus, they'll have all these other 4 or 5 subscriptions. But when you sit down and watch TV, can you watch all of them?
No. They should just do like 1 month they do this one.
Yeah.
The next month
Like then they usually don't even use most of them. They just forget about them.
Exactly, and they forget, and because you don't track your money every month or every week, you don't even notice. Like I don't even notice that I'm paying that. Like it's just money that's coming out, and so it creates cash flow problems. They think budgeting is optional. I like to think of budgeting as proactive budgeting, thinking ahead and not limiting. They ignore small leaks, which we talked about, like things they forget about, things that are coming out, which are minimal, like they're probably like $10-$20 a month, but it adds up, especially if you're not using it.
$120. In a year, that's already like $120 to $240.
A lot of people focus on income, not on flow. So a lot of people will, they think that having more money solves the problem. Why do you think having more money does not solve the problem?
Because it just makes you more of who you already are.
Yeah, which means that if you're spending,
have more problems, then you're gonna spend more.
Yeah, if you are already spending, bringing more money in without realizing where your money's going, it's just gonna mean that
It's
you're
like if you're a bad driver with one car on the road and you crash into them, what's gonna happen when you have more drivers?
Yep.
You're just gonna crash into all of them.
Right.
Wrong.
I worked with clients that were making $60,000 a year, and they were barely making it, but they were still on the positive cash flow part. And then I got to work with a company that made over $200,000 a month, and they were in the reds every single month.